lot of hard work.
We spent a lot of time.
E.T. and Earl at the same time.
Laying down on the ground at midnight.
Yeah, sleeping.
I think the thing that raised some eyebrows with people is when I dropped the information about Quincy Jones. This dude was one of the ones responsible. He had a magazine financed by Warner Brothers and arrested him. He set up rings in Hollywood.
They were recording a new song called Billie Jean, and Michael Jackson had decided to fill every gap with his trademark whoops, clicks, and squeaks. Quincy Jones was kicking what looked like a pile of rags on the floor while shouting, "Silent, you mother f***! I said no squeaks!"
Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson, two legends of music bound by a creative genius that would change pop forever. Yet, behind the scenes, tensions boiled over and their relationship crumbled.
Quincy Jones was kicking what looked like a pile of rags on the floor while shouting, "Silent, you mother f***! I said no squeaks!" It turned out that the pile of rags was a gibbering Michael Jackson.
And now, as Quincy's shocking death sparks fresh questions, allegations surface. Was this music titan hiding a dark, twisted side? Apparently, some insiders say yes.
This dude was one of the ones responsible. He had a magazine financed by Warner Brothers and arrested him. He set up rings in Hollywood.
Did Quincy Jones AB his power to take credit for Michael's artistry, or worse? And what did Michael discover about Quincy's alleged Hollywood secrets? Far too late. Quincy Jones passed away on November 3rd, surrounded by his loved ones at his home, as confirmed by his publicist Arnold Robinson. Following his demise, Quincy's family released a statement saying, "Tonight, with full but broken hearts, we must share the news of our father and brother Quincy Jones's passing. And although this is an incredible loss for our family, we celebrate the great life that he lived and know there will never be another like him." The statement continued, "He is truly one of a kind and we will miss him dearly. We take comfort and immense pride in knowing that the love and joy that were the essence of his being was shared with the world through all that he created. Through his music and his boundless love, Quincy Jones's heart will beat for eternity." Yet, decades earlier, in the late 70s, Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson were an unstoppable duo. Quincy, a seasoned producer with decades of experience, and Michael, a young pop sensation, combined their talents to create music that changed the world. Together, they crafted Off the Wall, a smash hit that marked Michael's breakthrough as a solo artist. But that was only the beginning. Their collaboration on Thriller would go on to sell over 66 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling album of all time. Yet, behind the scenes, cracks were starting to show.
Quincy Jones was kicking what looked like a pile of rags on the floor while shouting, "Silent, you mother f***! I said no squeaks!" It turned out that the pile of rags was a gibbering Michael Jackson.
As the pressures of success mounted, Quincy's interactions with Michael grew tense. Quincy was known for his blunt approach, but with Michael it was sometimes brutal. He reportedly called Michael a mother effer during recording sessions and constantly pushed him beyond his limits. Michael's inner circle began to notice the strain. Despite their massive success, the two eventually parted ways. Quincy and Michael would never work together on an album again after Bad. And in 2017, Quincy dropped a bombshell. He publicly called Michael a thief. For context, after Michael passed in 2009, Quincy went after MJ's estate over what he claimed was misuse of his work on This Is It, and he won a $9.4 million judgment. But that wasn't the end. Quincy went on to spill some serious tea about Michael in 2018, calling him a Machiavellian who stole songs and didn't share credit.
"This is the moment. This is it. It's an adventure."
In the now famous Vulture interview, Quincy didn't hold back. When asked, "What's something people don't understand about Jackson?" Quincy went right for it. "Michael stole a lot of stuff. He stole a lot of songs," he said straight up. One of those songs? Billie Jean. Quincy claimed MJ lifted the beat from Donna Summer's State of Independence, a track Quincy himself had produced. "The notes don't lie, man," Quincy said. "Jackson was as Machiavellian as they come. Greedy, man, greedy."
More like beauty queen from a movie scene.
And it didn't stop there. Quincy took issue with Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, written by Greg Phillinganes. According to him, Michael should have given Phillinganes a cut for his contribution. Turns out, Quincy's not alone in pointing out MJ's influences. Over the years, Michael faced all kinds of accusations about borrowing music. Back in the 90s, he even beat a lawsuit claiming he'd ripped off parts of Thriller, The Girl Is Mine, and We Are the World. And remember Will You Be There from the Free Willy soundtrack? An Italian songwriter claimed MJ had copied it, but a court eventually let him off the hook. There was also the Belgian case over You Are Not Alone. In 2007, a Belgian court ruled that the track, written by R. Kelly, was too close to a song by composers Eddie and Danny Van Passel. The court banned it from Belgian airwaves. Talk about drama. And Michael even had to settle out of court with Cameroonian musician Manu Dibango over the line Mama Say Mama Sa Mama Kusa in Wanna Be Startin' Something. Aside from the plagiarism claims, Quincy took another stab at the king of pop in Vulture, suggesting he used excuses of an illness as a cover for an addiction to cosmetic surgery triggered by years of physical and emotional AB in the singer's childhood. He had a problem with his looks because his father told him he was ugly and AB'd him, the producer claimed. Michael's alleged AB'er, his father Joe Jackson, who died in June 2018, responded to statements questioning his son's legacy by calling Quincy jealous of his son's talent. He also pointed the finger at any plagiarism at Quincy for producing the songs. He says, "My son stole it, but he was the producer on both Billie Jean and State of Independence. So if anybody is wrong, it would be Quincy," the elder Jackson said. He, however, did not comment on the assertion that he had AB'd his child.
It says they know they're going to sell 104 million albums or whatever it was, are lying. You don't do that. You make something that you love, man.
In the same interview, a second unnamed family member suggested that Quincy was still bitter because Michael had lobbied against the producer getting a Grammy for the Thriller album in 1982. Michael did all of the work, the source said. It's his music, and everyone knows Michael's sound, and Thriller was all Michael Jackson. Michael wasn't the only music legend Quincy spilled tea about in the interview. Opening that rock music was just a white version of rhythm and blues. The producer recalled that his first impression of the early years Beatles was that they were the worst musicians in the world. They were no playing B, he went on. Paul McCartney was the worst bass player I ever heard. And Ringo Starr? Don't even talk about it. Quincy then recounted an equally unflattering anecdote about bringing in jazz drummer Ronnie Verrill to fix a track Starr had spent hours trying to get right. Nearly 40 years after its release, Michael Jackson's Bad continues to be debated among music critics and fans of the King of Pop. By any measure, it stands as one of the most successful pop music recordings of the modern era. Yet Bad has long lived in the shadow of its predecessor. Thriller, the best-selling album of all time, and Michael's creative and commercial peak made the stakes for Bad impossibly high. MJ had to sustain the pop idol hysteria unleashed by Thriller and prove the album's success was no fluke. Bad had to put to rest any questions about the singer's artistic bona fides as a songwriter and solo artist. Michael also had to restore his image following the Jacksons' problem-plagued Victory tour. With so much riding on the album, every choice made regarding Bad carried the weight of a nuclear strike. The release of Bad 25 in 2012 provided listeners with an opportunity to examine Bad in terms of what was left of the album. From that vantage point, it's clear that while Bad is unquestionably the product of Michael's creative genius, much of the credit for shaping it into the solid album it became goes to Quincy Jones, a master producer whose golden ears harnessed the singer's instincts into hits.
A lot of people misunderstand me. That's because they don't know me.
Experience the untold story of the legendary album that changed music history with never-before-seen footage.
With the Victory Tour completed in December 1984, Michael spent early 1985 cleaning up at the Grammys, co-creating We Are the World, and filming Disney's Captain EO. Afterward, the legendary singer headed to The Laboratory, his home studio at Havenhurst in Encino, California. There, he wrote and recorded demos with producer Bill Bottrell and arranger John Barnes, giving him a measure of artistic control over the work he had long desired. He wrote 62 songs and recorded dozens of demos through 1986, and at one point envisioned Bad as a triple album. At the same time, there was a tremendous amount of pressure from Epic and CBS and the whole entertainment industry for Michael to get on with following up the aging Thriller album. MJ also placed a great deal of pressure on himself. His stated goal, written on his bathroom mirror, was to sell 100 million copies of the album. Reaching that goal required hits, and that's where Quincy Jones came in. Quincy's judicious song selection, sequencing, and unifying touch were essential in achieving Michael's creative and commercial vision for Bad.
Sent me a note, could you please take off the violins in the introduction? No, it's messed up my groove. You know what that line was? Diddle 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 diddle.
By August 1986, the singer was sending demos over to Quincy at Westlake Audio in Los Angeles for review, re-recording, and overdubs. Sessions with Michael at Westlake got serious in January 1987. When you get a song you feel you like, you put it down with a rhythm section to get it on its feet, and then you hear Michael sing a couple of takes on it, maybe with a couple of background lines to see how it holds up, so you can see what it might be and you're not just wasting your time, Quincy told Mix in 2007. The award-winning composer focused on quality instead of quantity and convinced Michael to abandon the triple album concept. Every album has extra songs that didn't make it to the album. There's a little bit of advice I like to use all the time on an album. We went through 800 songs to get to Thriller, and we ended up with 9 finally. They must have been very impressive to us, Quincy told Music Week in 2010. When you get to 9, the producer has to, in his mind, pick and be very honest and say, these 4 in relation to the 9 are the weakest of the entire 9. It takes a lot of truth to do that. You have to bury the ego. Demos on Bad 25 like Don't Be Messin' Around and I'm So Blue illustrate Quincy's point. Don't Be Messin' Around has a light bouncy beat that recalls both Dancing in the Streets and Thriller's Wanna Be Startin' Something, but doesn't have the buoyancy of Bad's The Way You Make Me Feel. Song Groove, aka Abortion Papers, could have been a sequel to Billie Jean, but its controversial subject matter can't substitute for the haunting tone of its predecessor and makes Dirty Diana a stronger choice. Many of the demos like Free and The Price of Fame find Michael longing for respite from his post-Thriller world. Price of Fame, which was planned for use in a 1987 Pepsi commercial, has a groove reminiscent of Billie Jean, with the singer's most personal lyrics to date. I want a face no one can recognize. My joy has turned to pain. I feel the pressure setting in. I'm living just to win. Just sign your name on the dotted line, you'll be fine. That always bothers me. My father always told me, you won't live a quiet life if you're reaching for fortune and fame. Father never lies. My father never lies. My father never lies. Leave Me Alone was a more subtle look at Michael Jackson's personal struggles, a softer version of the raw emotions he couldn't express fully on the Bad album. The lyrics were too personal and revealing, but the song still became an anthem of defiance, a plea for privacy amid the media frenzy around him. Then there's the pile of unreleased tracks from the Bad sessions. Some, like Streetwalker and Fly Away, were included in Bad 25 but were kept as hidden gems. Streetwalker touches on the harsh realities of street life, but it lacks a hook to make it truly unforgettable. Fly Away, though, stands out as one of the best unreleased tracks, though it doesn't quite match the final cut. Liberian Girl. There were many more songs Michael recorded that never saw the light of day, such as Bad Company, Broken Chair, and Crack Case S. Cheater was included in the Ultimate Collection in 2004, offering fans a taste of what might have been. It's surprising to think that despite so many options, Michael's most iconic song from Bad, Man in the Mirror, wasn't even his own creation. By the time Man in the Mirror was recorded, Michael was under pressure. Quincy Jones needed another hit to finish the album. It took 2 years to wrap up Bad, costing $2 million, but it paid off with 35 million copies sold worldwide. Despite the success, Bad marked the end of Michael and Quincy's partnership. Michael wanted more control over his music, and with David Geffen's help, he began moving away from Quincy, who felt unfairly blamed for Bad not matching Thriller's success. Anyway, the controversies surrounding Quincy Jones go far beyond his feud with Michael. Over the years, shocking rumors have surfaced, painting Quincy as a far more sinister figure. Allegations of SA and even Hollywood S-rings have plagued his legacy. According to multiple informants, Quincy allegedly AB'd his power and engaged in predatory behavior toward young stars, including actors and musicians. Over the years, disturbing stories have surfaced about Quincy's influence over young stars and his deep connections to industry gatekeepers. One such star was Tevin Campbell. When Tevin Campbell burst onto the scene as a teenager, his voice was called a gift from the heavens. But as he rose under Quincy's wing, there was a shadow too. Those close to him said it felt like Quincy owned Tevin. His voice, his image, his future. Quincy's reputation for control was no secret. Many stars, even the biggest names in the industry, had felt the weight of Quincy's influence. But Tevin was young, impressionable, and, according to some, vulnerable. What started as mentorship quickly blurred into something else. You see, in early 2018, rumors surfaced claiming that Quincy Jones was allegedly bi. These revelations caused many internet users to flip the script and dig up perceived dirt on the legendary music producer. One of the long-standing rumors that made rounds after the Vulture piece gained traction was that the Grammy-winning artist essayed R&B singer Tevin Campbell when Campbell was still a young one. Campbell, whom Jones called an underrated musician in the Vulture interview, took to Twitter to address the rumors after they began to resurface. "Now I'm trending, folks will really say some disgusting things," the Can We Talk singer said. Tevin was essayed by Quincy. "Get the FEF out of here with the devil," he continued. Several laughing emojis accompanied the tweet. Elsewhere in the interview, Jones stated how the Beatles were the worst musicians in the world, that he dated Ivanka Trump years ago, and that Marlon Brando slept with other male entertainers such as James Baldwin and Richard Pryor. Tevin was once regarded as one of the best musical talents in the world, but having joined the industry as a young one, many people were out to take advantage of him, Quincy included. Campbell's follow-up collaboration would be with none other than Prince when he was just 15 for the top 15 Billboard Hot 100 Round and Round, peaking at number 3 R&B. By 18, there were only 3 voices allowed to vamp out in both ad-libs and in keys higher than everyone else on 1994's Black Men United's soul charity single You Will Know, written by D'Angelo, and they were Stokely Williams, Brian McKnight, and an 18-year-old Tevin Campbell on a song that included everyone from Usher and Gerald Levert to El DeBarge and Lenny Kravitz. This was the level of company Tevin Campbell was not only keeping but holding his own with, smiling confidently and shimmering with ingenue talent until everything fell apart. With a 4.5 octave range, young Campbell was often referred to as the male Whitney Houston of his day by those who closely studied vocal technique. He had so clearly researched Houston's approach to the song, right down to her riffs, runs, and builds, that his altino countertenor on Alan and Marilyn Bergman's 1992 Quincy Jones's produced one song off of the official Olympics Barcelona Gold album so completely followed the 1988 blueprint for One Moment in Time that one could be forgiven for believing the song was Whitney's. She would go on to perform it live repeatedly for presidents and in concert thereafter. Campbell would be called to slay Whitney's style again at age 20 on the 1996 Olympic album for The Impossible Dream. Of the 5 Grammy nominations he'd received before his 20th birthday, Campbell lost to the likes of Luther Vandross, Al Jarreau, Ray Charles, Babyface, and Peak Boys 2 Men. That's the level of artistic competition he was considered in the company of in 1991, 1993, and 1995 respectively. In addition to selling over 3 million albums during this run, Campbell acted in sitcoms and cop shows alongside such talents as Will Smith and Brandy. Meanwhile, it seems Campbell was not the only one who had passed through the alleged essaying hands of Quincy Jones. Will Smith is another person alleged to have been essayed by Quincy.
So Benny walks me in and introduced me to Quincy and like, "Hey Q, what's up, man?" He's like, "Hey man, I saw your music videos. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. Tell me your rap name again."
What's more, there are claims that Quincy once made advances towards Tupac Shakur. If you can recall, there was an interview with Tupac where he discussed Quincy Jones's purported advances. Supposedly in that interview, Tupac disclosed that Quincy had propositioned him, suggesting an intimate encounter. Strangely, this interview has allegedly mysteriously disappeared from the internet, leaving many to wonder if Quincy's considerable clout played a role in its removal. Given Tupac's absence to confirm the authenticity of the audio, it appears Quincy may have distanced himself from any such allegations. Even Tupac's friend, Napoleon, when confronted with rumors of a relationship between Tupac and Quincy, vehemently denied them in an interview and staunchly defended Jones.
Yeah, I think them rumors about Quincy Jones and all that crazy stuff about Pac was definitely rumors. Pac was about to marry his daughter.
But despite many attempts to conceal the interview, some fans claim to still remember to this day each and every word of the Tupac interview. One person actually commented on it saying, "I heard the audio of Tupac saying that about Quincy with my own ears about 10 years ago. Quincy is or was the keyholder to the black music industry. Anyone at the top level had gotten there by partaking in his parties." But this is not the first time Tupac expressed his frustration on Quincy about his nasty actions. Back in the day, in an interview, Tupac lashed out on a lot of associates and made some daring remarks about them.
Times in jail for a crime I didn't commit, while every other black person, whoever they was f***ing babies in the ass.
Could it be that insinuations were being made about Quincy Jones as a figure who might have exerted influence to have his own preferences realized by others? Such conjectures are not entirely unfounded. especially when examining the close relationship between Quincy and Tupac during the latter's career. This proximity might have been viewed by some as an opportunity for Quincy to make advances towards Tupac. Their bond had deepened to the point where Tupac was allegedly contemplating a move from Death Row Records to Quincy's record label. One intriguing revelation came from none other than Keisha Cole, who shared a revealing anecdote about the night Tupac met his untimely demise. During an episode of Fat Joe's Instagram series, Cole unveiled an interesting detail. It turns out that just before his tragic demise in 1996, Tupac had been harboring intentions of leaving Death Row Records and signing with Quincy Jones's music company, a piece of information Keisha Cole disclosed. In one episode of Fat Joe's Instagram Live series, Cole recounted how MC Hammer had initially introduced her to Death Row Records, where she had the chance to encounter both Tupac and Suge Knight, the label's co-founders. Astonishingly, on the very day Tupac met his untimely end, he had made the decision to sever ties with Death Row in favor of joining forces with Quincy Jones's label. He had even extended an invitation to Keisha Cole to accompany him on this musical journey. Tragically, it was on that fateful day in Las Vegas when Tupac was shot, forever altering the course of music history. Now, it's important to note that Michael Jackson himself, or anyone from his inner circle, never publicly accused Quincy of AB. While their relationship was tense and ended on a sour note, Michael never suggested Quincy had crossed any boundaries. But it's undeniable that Quincy's influence in Hollywood was massive, and his reputation complicated. Quincy Jones's passing on November 3rd has left behind a mixed legacy. He's remembered as a musical icon, a genius producer who helped shape pop music. But he's also remembered for his tense relationships, his legal battles, and the dark rumors that cast a shadow over his career. Quincy's legacy forces us to ask hard questions. Did he truly respect Michael as an artist? Or was he just another figure in Michael's life trying to take advantage of his fame? And as for the disturbing rumors, will we ever know the truth? Quincy Jones will be remembered as one of the most influential music producers in history. But his legacy is far from simple. As fans continue to celebrate his contributions, others question the darker side of his Hollywood influence and whether his legacy was truly about music or something more. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.